if you're delivering, people will come to you. And our growth happened because of the work, right? We put in the work and we were able to expand. And then, everything else started to come from all this.
Welcome back to Talkin St Pete. I'm your host, Ryan Bogdan. This is episode 6. Before we dive into today's guest, I just want to give a big thank you to everyone who is listening, watching, sharing, commenting, and doing all the good things on social. We really appreciate you, and you're giving us lots of motivation to keep going as we grow. So if you're listening to this now and you're not subscribed on YouTube or Spotify, please hit that subscribe button, as your encouragement is keeping us going and allowing us to have more and more awesome guests come on, which leads to our guest today. I don't think he needs an introduction. Maybe he does, but you definitely know his establishments. If you don't know the man behind him, you're going to find out today. You may know the Avenue, No Vacancy, Dirty Laundry, Park and Rec, BallPark Rec, Good Fortune, and his newest place, Lost and Found. Stephen Schrutt with the Hunger Thirst Group. Welcome to Talkin St Pete.
Thanks for having me. It's awesome to be here, and that was a pretty long list. It's getting crazy.
It is getting crazy.
It's nuts to me, honestly. Like sometimes it'll be like, how many places do you have? And I'm like, shit, I need to count.
Let me count. You're almost running out of fingers.
Yeah, we might get to a certain number and call it a day.
Is that something that is in mind for you? How big?
Not a certain number, but probably start to slow down a little bit. It's one of those things. We've had some wild growth over the last few years, which, I was just talking to someone last week about it. Like it's odd to be growing during the 3 most difficult years I've ever had, personally and professionally. And so it's kind of crazy that we've had significant growth in the last couple of years, but it definitely felt a little bit like, as 2022 was coming to an end, like, getting Lost and Found open and 3 places in 13 months, it just kind of felt like I needed like an exhale.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, okay, let's pump the brakes. Like, a new year, it's always good to like refocus on what you have, instead of like maybe, expanding more. So yeah, that's kind of where my mind's at a little bit right now. It could change 6 months from now, right? A year from now. There's definitely ideas I have that I'd love to see happen, but like I'm not in like a rush. So
right, you have time.
I'm sort of young.
Sorta. You look great. You're looking good.
Thanks.
Yeah. And the last place that just opened, I was there. I think the week after it opened, Lost and Found. Man, the vibe in there is awesome.
I love it.
Awesome. How long did that take you to formulate?
So came up with the concept over 2 years ago, just roughly about 2 years ago, and had an opportunity for the location that became available. I wasn't even looking, but I had the concept. I'm big on like creating a concept and finding a home for it later on. But this was an opportunity that came up, and the building was sold. The previous business closed down, and the new landlord I actually knew. So it was kind of one of those like, connect the dots type of situations where I got a phone call, and the timing was not great for me, but, I was able to figure it out. And I struggled a little bit with the timing, and then also did I want to do the concept that I created of Lost and Found without a kitchen. And so that's kind of where like the food truck idea came from, is more of like, okay, I still want to have food for my guests because they do want an element of eating, right? Like, and I want to keep them. I don't want them to go, we're going to, just come for drinks and they never have food. And when I write the concepts that I do, it's always food involved, because to me it's a little bit more like a well-rounded idea. So conceptually it's nice to have food, drinks, atmosphere. It's all comes together.
Yeah.
And there just wasn't room for a kitchen, and I kept trying, like while negotiating the lease and everything. I was like trying to figure out like, where the hell am I going to put a kitchen? Like I have a menu for this place, and it just didn't make sense. And I almost bought my own food truck. And then it just, going back to like I was saying earlier, the last 3 years, like our industry has been through a lot, and like labor is extremely difficult. Like not only are we paying people more money, but like the reliability is just unbelievable. Like people don't show up to work. It just, I don't know if I can just point the finger at COVID, but like it's just a difficult time in our industry, as well as, I think, everywhere, right? Like I'm sure other industries have their own issues with staffing and, inflation and cost of goods, we've seen it, more so than ever.
Yeah.
And, so that was like another reason why I was like, why am I going to stress out about somebody operating this food truck all the time? And if they don't show up to work, food cost, quality control on the products, right? Like, so it made sense to partner up with other local businesses, small businesses. Food trucks are small businesses, and the area that we are, like, there's not a lot of restaurants. So that was another thing. Is like I felt like I didn't want to take away from my neighbors, and there weren't a lot of restaurants in the area. So I was like, you know what, a couple nights a week, let's have food trucks. We'll partner up with a couple different ones and rotate them, and then that way, we start to help them as well as they're helping our guests.
It's working.
And it's been great. Honestly, we found a few food trucks. Obviously, it's something that we're still working on and growing that, but like. We're doing right now 4 days a week, and we're rotating different ones. And we found a handful of really good operators of the food trucks, and they have their own little followings, right?
Because, yeah, of course.
That's the cool thing too for us is like it's a great co-marketing, right? Like if you have this awesome pizza food truck and you're at a brewery, well, they might follow your social pages and see where you are, and maybe they've never heard of Lost and Found yet because we're new.
Well, because it's new. Help us describe the vibe of Lost and Found. You're going to do it better than I am, but it's really awesome. 70s theme, right? Is that kind of what
80s era? Yeah. So it was like, for me, it was really about like a lot of the music I grew up on. I wanted to create a place that just felt good, right? Like it's a place that everyone could walk into, have a good time. I always joked around as like, it's that place that maybe your mom, dad, aunt, uncle, that's where they hung out in the neighborhood, right? They were late for dinner because they maybe had another, they might've had too many drinks at Lost and Found.
Right.
So, that was kind of my mindset there. And the era of like such great music, I love all the music I grew up on, 70s, 80s, obviously some 90s too, but we don't really tap into 90s. So we're really keeping it 70s, 80s. So you'll hear everything from disco and funk and soul and pop. And
I love it.
Rock.
I love it.
I mean, there's, I was there like 2 weeks ago on a Friday night, and I always have kind of an aha moment at my places when they're new. And, I just saw everyone having a good time, and the whole place was singing "Pour Some Sugar on Me," and I was like, "This is awesome!" Like everyone is singing, and it definitely like we're capturing a little bit of an older audience, which is unique for a lot of my places. We've always been downtown and very, like almost like post college crowds. So it's nice to see kind of like a little bit of a larger or an older demographic as well as like. We're seeing the younger people too, and it's fun to see them loving the music that their parents probably played for them, right? Yeah. So it's cool because it's like I grew up on this music. I love everything from Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, Stevie Wonder, Beastie Boys, like all these great.
All that's coming back.
Yeah,
right? All that's coming back.
Great to hear it because like. I guess I'm getting old, but like I can't listen to a lot of the shit today.
Well, and there is that audience downtown, and so you nailed it on the head there in terms of creating an environment, whether it was intentional or not. That now this different demographic that isn't normally for your spots is having a good place to go, and the aesthetic from the furniture. I love the couch vibe that's going in there.
Yeah, I wanted it to be a very like. Well, the vintage vibe of it, right?
Yep.
So all the furniture is all vintage. I sourced it, and like that was crazy to do.
Yeah. So what was that like? Like, give a short little story. How did you find? I mean, because it feels super authentic.
That was a lot of work. Yeah, it was a ton of work. I ended up, sourcing for months furniture. I ended up actually right before we opened, I found someone that I was buying furniture from. And she actually has a store in Seminole Heights. So shout out to her, Sophia. She's awesome. And she's got a vintage store out in Seminole Heights. So she helped me stage it all.
Oh, cool.
So it was really cool. I was like, I need your help.
Yeah.
Like I've been buying all this shit and I'm like putting it together, but like I needed a lot of like finishing touches, like artwork and things like that. So it was cool though to be able to do something that was just like very much like a unique process. And very like organic and authentic because all the furniture's it's not like someone made it to look like that. Right. It's legit. I bought it off, somebody like I had a girl actually come in and she's like, that was my grandma's couch I told you. And I'm like, oh shit, that's cool.
Well, that's you can tell that
That's
it's
awesome.
that it's authentic and it's not new and it was made well. It's good furniture. I mean, I rolled in there the other night with like 10 people
Awesome.
for someone's birthday.
Appreciate
And we hung out and had a good time. It was a really, really good time.
Yeah, it seems like everyone's having a good time there, and that's what we always try to deliver. Is just I want people to have fun.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Hospitality is, we're providing people an outlet to have a good time.
Yeah. Well, you've done it time and time again. Your process is clearly working. What does that look like for you? I know I've did a little bit of research and I understand you mentioned you get some inspiration from your music.
Yeah.
And when you get this creative process going, you're working on it day and night, you're going out, but like dive in a little deeper for us. Like, what is that? Are you sitting down with a notepad? Are you on Google Images? Like where do you go to create these masterpieces?
For me, it's, like I mentioned earlier, I usually like to create something and then find a home for it. I usually go that way, but I also have visited spaces and been like, okay, this space, I can see a certain concept here.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what are we lacking in that area? And so that was one of the things with Lost and Found too, is like, at first I was a little, standoffish on the space because I couldn't do a kitchen.
Right.
And I was like, man, I created this really cool food menu. Like, what about food? Right. And so I was a little bit, in the process of trying to figure that out. Do I do it or not? Because maybe I create a different concept for that space, or maybe I don't take it at all. But the process for me is really about like finding the idea of what are we missing and bringing that into an area. Because for Grand Central District, for Lost and Found, I felt like we didn't really have a cocktail bar, and the area is still becoming like this great neighborhood, and I love it. And it's different than like the core of downtown, right? And we have all these little pockets now, which is great. And it's fun because I've been here 11 years, and seeing people not just stay in like the main block,
Right?
And that was
now
one of the things.
Expanding down Central.
I mean, when I opened the Avenue 11 years ago, everyone told me, I just moved to St. Pete, and everyone told me like nobody goes off of Central Avenue, and I'm like, well, Red Mesa Cantina is off Central Avenue, and everyone's going there to eat, and they're doing great. And Push was upstairs, and like they were doing great. And I'm like, dude, if people are not going to walk a block, like I don't believe in that, right?
Yeah.
Like we're going to do such a good job that they're going to come to us,
Right.
and that's the one thing I always feel like if you're delivering, people will come to you. And the world's changed in the 11 years, right? Like Uber wasn't a thing, and social media wasn't as powerful 11 years ago when we started out. And so, we've seen so much change for our industry, as well as just like technology in the world that helps us reach customers. I mean, I remember when I first opened the Avenue, like Groupon was, knocking on my door every day. Like, you got to do Groupon, you got to do Groupon. I'm like, no, but like that was like such a thing back then. And now look where we are. Like marketing's completely different, right? Like, social media has changed so much. I mean, between, even like 11 years ago when I opened the Avenue, like Facebook was still really like the only platform and not to the magnitude it is now. And obviously Instagram and TikTok and, there's all these different platforms. So, it's changed, but, reaching an audience and getting them to come to you is vital. But like, I think if you're doing a good job, you're going to have people come to you regardless of your location. So
I know you say you came here 11 years ago. I through my research, you were born in New York, had some,
Buffalo,
had
Go
some
Bills. I'm still heartbroken. Still heartbroken. The other day, as long as well as the last couple of years. And all those years in the 90s too, man. I was a kid back then, but that shit hurt.
Yeah, it's tough. The Bills have struggled. Yeah.
We'll be all right. We'll be all right.
Yeah. At least you're a loyal fan.
I still believe.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
That's our motto.
And had some time in California. Has any of that influenced any of your projects that you brought here?
Yeah,
in
definitely.
St. Pete?
I definitely use my experiences in life, and like I'm really big on like taking people to a place. Like I want my places to literally bring you to that, right? That mindset of this is like, and so for like Lost and Found, like I really felt like I wanted people to feel like they were in that era of 70s, 80s, very like basement, but also that vintage bar feel of like, a neighborhood spot. So it kind of, for me, it's kind of a storytelling, aspect.
Yeah, so how did that start for you? So the Avenue was your first one here.
Yeah, so the Avenue was the first 11 years ago. That was really for me just about bringing a place that was a neighborhood spot. I wanted people to have that everyday kind of place. And that was really a lot of what we focused on. And we still do, right? We're a place that I always wanted people to know, like, you could come by yourself, or you might be meeting up with some friends. You might watch a ball game. You might listen to some music. Regardless, it doesn't matter if it's Tuesday night or Friday night, and as well as like lunch. And it's funny, when we first opened 11 years ago, I thought lunch would be our busiest, being downtown,
right? And
it was the hardest for us to grow, and it definitely has changed since COVID impacted a lot of the daytime business. But we're seeing that, being consistent, that's what's always going to bring people back. And if you're consistent, people know they can count on you. It's very trust, right? Like it's a trust factor in that. And I think anytime you're consistent in what you do, you gain the consumer's trust. And if we do a good job of that, I really believe that you'll be successful.
So 11 years ago, the plans for the Avenue, I mean, so you came from hospitality a little bit, right? You worked in it. So did you have family that owned restaurants or bars? Like, where did that, because it takes some encouragement as an entrepreneur to dive into open, there's a huge fail rate in the industry, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I've had failures too.
And you learn from them, I'm sure.
Big time.
And so what led you to diving into this, say, hey, this is something that I can do? Did you meet a partner? Was there encouragement from someone else? Where gave you the cojones to go out there and start that first one?
I guess I had the cojones, but I also think I was very, I've always been creative. I wanted my own place. Working in the industry, that's probably almost everyone's goal if you're in it long enough. I've come across managers of mine who've gone on. I've got one of my old general managers. He and I talk all the time. He just opened his 5th place, nice. And like, he's doing great. And like, his goal was to do what I was doing. Right. So we see that in bartenders and managers. And then you also have people that it's just a job. Right. So, for me, it was one of those things that became like my actual dream. And so running a place and being a general manager, it led to me going, I want this to be mine, right? Like, I don't want this to be yours,
right?
Right.
So the encouragement to say, I can do this.
Yeah. And so you go through that process, and you learn a lot in the process of opening up a place. And that was the last thing for me before I decided to open up the Avenue. Was I had general managed a place and started it from the ground up. So, from the build out to staffing and uniforms and policies and training and, building a menu and all these, pricing menus out and all these different things that you go through. And literally you're
in the trenches.
You just created a business, right? And then, but it's not yours.
Right.
And so for me, it was kind of that moment of like, I want to do this shit for me. Right. Like this, I want this. I want this. I want to do my own thing.
You can do all the work. You want the reward.
And that was the thing too, is like that concept wasn't mine, and it wasn't my idea, and it wasn't long term what I saw for myself. Right. Like, I opened this place, cool, whatever, but it's your idea. It's your vision. I'm just running the play. Right. So it's like, you kind of get to that point where it's like you want to do it yourself.
And so that start there, I mean, did you have an idea that you would be now at 7 places?
I didn't. I really didn't. I think back then my goal was just, I want my own place. And, a few years later, you kind of get that creative itch, and you kind of, being in St. Pete at a great time too. I tell people all the time, like, I'm so fortunate that I decided to come to St. Pete, and that the opportunities have happened in this, in my lifetime where I'm at, because right place, right time, I feel like a lot, right. Not to say like I haven't put in the work, because I have, trust me, plenty of 15 to 20 hour work days. Right. But the time of St. Pete growing, I'm very thankful that I've been able to be part of it. And I saw that when I moved here.
So
right?
what
that
was
one of the things, like, I could see how cool of a city like I loved St. Pete when I started coming over to St. Pete from Tampa. And I was like, man, St. Pete's such a cool little downtown. Like I could see myself living downtown and working downtown and creating downtown and like very like live, work, play. And that was one of the things I felt like young professionals were looking for. And I was seeing that even in Tampa in like the Soho Channel side, you know, downtown, you know, you're talking 10, 15 years ago already. That was coming in like Tampa, St. Pete, and other markets. We've seen the growth of that is like people want to park their car on Friday and not drive it again until Monday. Like we want to be able to walk out our door, go get a bite to eat, walk to the movie theater, take your dog to a park. You know, the old world, I think, was like you drove to everything and like everything was 30 minutes away. And, you know, that's not what we have anymore. And even like, another thing that I loved about St. Pete is like our downtown, you know, going even back then, it was, I could see the like the blueprint of it and it was coming. And like, you know, First Friday used to be something that I really enjoyed back then. And, you know, I don't go out as much anymore, but like, you know, one of those things that I felt like First Friday was cool, great art community, like culture, art, music, fashion. I'm drawn to all of that. Hospitality, you know, like a lot of what we do is in that realm.
Well, you're an artist. I mean, it comes through. You can see.
I can't
it
draw for shit.
Well, conceptually, right?
No,
There's many different ways.
I'm definitely
of
a visual, and I find ways to, you know, going back to that creative process. I create my mood boards, and I work on a lot of visuals.
So that's what it looks like. Is it a giant? You get a poster board out. You're doing some clip art things. You're doing it on the computer. Like
it's
walk me through it. So we're coming up with a new spot right here. I want to ask you here. We're going to dive a little thing. So have you played with Chat GPT yet? Have you heard about it?
No, what is this?
Okay, so a lot of people are hearing about this right now, about to put it on and blow up their servers even more. It's an AI that you can have a conversation with, and imagine if you could have access to all the information on the internet, but then it could conglomerate and give it to you in an answer. And so, an example, preparing for our conversation, I had the chat write me a business plan for a mocktail bar. Okay, because there's some trends out there saying that mocktails are going to
a couple spots.
Okay, so let's imagine a mocktail only establishment. So I type in the chat, write me a business plan for a mocktail bar for St. Petersburg. I want to name a food menu and a drink menu.
And it did it.
Give it all. It's called the Prohibition.
I'm being replaced.
Well, that's where, from a creative
I'm being replaced.
Stephen, from a creative aspect, I'm curious if you got in there and played with it, because you start to feed it some of your ideas. And I mean, it put together a whole drink menu for me with names that were related to the Prohibition era and ingredients that were non-alcoholic related.
Me and my team are being replaced.
Well, but that takes from the human creative process to look at.
I got to mess with that. That's unique.
I
definitely like to see it, you know?
Yeah, and say, is this something
to see
that
what it does? Maybe it triggers some ideas,
right?
You know, anything that, you know, can kind of, you know, like
I was blown away by it.
Is always cool, right?
I was blown away by it. And I would love for us offline to look at something like that, to see if, you know, because you've done it, right?
Yeah.
You just talked about mood boards and things like that, to know, okay, is this something that could be brought here? And which brings me to one of my questions that came up. You're saying you're identifying what St. Pete needs. What do you think we need next?
I mean, if I say it, then, you know, I'm not going to be able to do it. There's plenty of things we still need.
But do you have ideas that are cooking right now that you've identified?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that was one of the things, like Park and Rec, for instance. Like for me, that was the second concept I came up with, but it wasn't the second concept that I did. And I felt like there was nothing to do downtown except eat and drink, right?
Fair enough.
So going back a decade, you went out to dinner, you ate, you had drinks, you know, sure, there was live music places and, you know, we had bands and DJs and all that everyday stuff, but there was nothing to do, right? And so that was where my mind went with creating Park and Rec. And we were starting to see a trend in other markets. And that's where I felt like St. Pete was still missing, is there's no activity bar. There's no gaming bar. There's nothing downtown that you're going to go do besides eating and drinking, you know, and obviously watching a ball game. But there was nothing going on outside of that. And that's where a lot of like the Park and Rec idea came from. And for me, it was like, you know, there's nothing that people are doing that is interactive and also in a different way that, you know, every bar is doing, you got drink specials, you got live music, you got DJs. So that was kind of where that triggered. And, like No Vacancy, for instance, I spent a lot of time out on the beach because it's my escape from downtown. And that's another reason why I moved to St. Pete, is because I love how we have a city downtown, right? There's concerts and there's art shows and there's, great buildings to live in and plenty of restaurants and bars to go out to. But we're 15 minutes out to the beach and it's a whole different vibe. And that's the thing. Like, I spent most of my life in Florida. My parents were smart to get out of Buffalo for weather reasons, right? Like, they knew, Florida's weather is a lot better than living in the snow.
A lot better.
So, that was one of the things is like living in Florida, the beach is such a great escape. And, I started tapping into that idea when I'm out at the beach. It's like, man, we don't really have a Florida bar. Like, we didn't have anything to me, it was like, I'm going to create this vintage vibe of like the old Florida motel. And so I took that and brought it to.
Do you know where when you had that idea, or was that something that evolved? Like, can you say like, oh, you're sitting on the beach, toes in the sand, and you're like, oh, we need a vintage bar in Florida, or like, was it something, how did or you saw the flamingo, or like how did I'm really intrigued by your
a little bit
process.
of all of that. So what's cool? I'm glad you asked that because actually, I don't know if I've talked about this that much, but. So I like to go out to the beach. That was always kind of like my escape from downtown and work. And I was out at the beach and, I was starting to use the beach as like a quick escape. And I had a concept where I put No Vacancy that didn't make it. So going back to what we talked about, like having failures.
I'm glad you shared that.
I've had people like, oh, everything you do turns to gold. I'm like,
but no one remembers the great thing.
I've learned some very expensive lessons.
Yeah, well, Stephen, there's a great lesson in there for people who are trying to start anything right now, in that people won't remember your failures.
Well, it was a failure, and I had to figure it out. And that was one of the things is like, being an owner of your own business and businesses, and like, I was on a phone call before I walked in here with one of my operations managers, and like. I'm every day we're problem solving. Every day we're figuring it out.
Putting out fires.
Yeah. And like for me, that's one of the things is like I had an issue, I had a failing business, and it was like, what do I do? And my first thought back then was, okay, I'll sell it. And the process of selling a business is not fast and it's not easy. And so you still have to operate a business, right? And like, so the challenge of every day is like, we're not doing well. How do you maintain, right, until you sell? And so I was dealing with that with the business before No Vacancy, and I gave myself a deadline though. And so I came up with No Vacancy concept, and the name, I did have kind of an aha moment, was I was going back to my hotel from dinner, and there was the flashing sign No Vacancy on a motel, and I was just like. Yeah, man. That's what I'm calling it. Like that. No Vacancy.
Love that.
It's a motel, right? Like it has that vibe.
Yeah.
And so that's what I wanted to go with, and I wanted to go over the top tropical, and we don't really use the term tiki. We definitely focus a little bit more on like a tropical focus. Obviously tiki and tropical kind of, go together, but we're definitely more of a tropical than a Polynesian concept. And so we wanted to really be Florida. And so I wanted that old Florida vibe of like, and that's another thing, going back into like my life and my experiences, like we used to do the Florida beach vacations as a kid, right? So like every summer, my parents would take us to the beach, and you stay on the beach and you get that, that old Florida feel. And that's what I wanted to capture. And so, we went over the top with, flamingos everywhere, and a lot of greenery, and but always for me, it's always about delivering a place that people have fun. Hospitality, that's what we are. Yeah. Whether it be food's fun, drinks are fun, staff's fun, atmosphere's fun. You're gonna have a memorable time, and that's all I want, right? Like I want people to go. I had a blast last night at No Vacancy. I had a great time at the Avenue yesterday. Oh man, let's go next week to Talkin Rec. Whatever place it may be. Like I want to be your outlet for fun. What's
your favorite establishment of your own?
Man, you know what? It's funny. People ask me this often, and
you have to have a favorite. Like if you had to shut them all down right now, which one would you keep open?
I almost had to during COVID. Like I literally during COVID was facing that situation. And I thought about if I had to close a business or several, I mean, COVID was super scary. Like for us, it was how do we move forward and get through this, but also like, are we going to be able to get through this?
A lot of unknown.
Right? Like financially, we're not sitting on so much money that you can just close down for a year, right? Like you're screwed.
Right.
But yeah, so it's one of those things. If I had to close, what was the question?
If you had to close them all down but one.
Man, that's such a weird question for me because there's money factor, right? Would be like, okay, I'll keep this one.
Right.
This one makes so much money, right? Like, but that's not.
Yeah.
That's
no go off
like
the vibe.
If I was like,
where do you want to go? If you had to shut them all down, you're like this. I like
Lost and Found's my favorite right now because it's new, right? Like, and like it hasn't caused me so much headaches yet.
Okay.
So like, and always something new is cool,
right?
Like, so I enjoy that because it's new to me. And like I said, when I was there just a week ago, like seeing everyone in the room enjoying something that you created is awesome. But I had that same feeling when Dirty Laundry opened last year, and like Good Fortune this summer, and like so they're all so different.
I know.
To me, and so they all have a lot, like they're all my babies, like they are.
Tough, right?
The Avenue, I think, would probably always be the most, in some ways, special to me because I know what it took me to deal with everything I dealt with there, from
your firstborn.
Yeah, and like the struggle. Like I used to sleep there because I didn't have time to go home, and like and I didn't have any managers because I couldn't afford them. And I remember rolling up my sleeves and washing dishes on Saturday nights, and when the dishwasher doesn't show up. And I remember bussing tables nonstop, and even serving tables to help the staff on the floor because we're slammed and not having the pieces to the puzzle yet, right? Like when you're new and you don't know how busy you're going to be, you can't really plan for it yet. And it was very trial and error. And like I have a former server who, every time I see her, we still talk about how we never got a chance to go to the bathroom every night because that's how busy we were.
No
and
time.
We didn't have time to sit down and eat, and we didn't have time to go to the bathroom, and we were just that busy, and we were understaffed, and it was kind of a time of learning on the fly, and it was a different time. It really was. I don't want to sound old, but the world was different.
I mean, 11 years.
The world was different 11 years ago, and again, it was very trial and error, right? Like I remember I got to that point where I was like, we need a host. We need a full-time busboy. These shifts. I need an assistant manager, right? Like started needing stuff, and thankfully we did, right? And like also like then I expanded in the back part of the Avenue and built out the patio bar, and so like our growth happened because of the work, right? We put in the work, and we were able to expand, and just in that building, and then everything else started to come from all this. And for me, I created Hunger Thirst Group was when I was creating my third concept, and that failed proper. I don't know if I don't know how long have you been around? You've been around forever, right?
No, that's what's fun about the show because I'm intrigued for myself because I've almost been here 2 years.
That's it.
And so when you describe downtown at this, I can come from a spot. There's so many new people here.
Where were you?
I came from Philadelphia.
Okay, my best friend's from Philly.
Oh, nice.
Go Eagles this weekend, bro.
Go Birds. Go
Good
Birds.
luck, man.
Thank you.
I'm rooting for you guys. My best friend, he was rooting for the Bills. I was rooting for the Eagles. We were hoping to go to Arizona, and one of us would be happier and one of us would be sad.
Yeah, but, someone's got to lose.
Yeah, someone, but yeah, good luck. I'm going to watch the game this Sunday with them.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, man. I know how diehard you guys are too.
Yeah.
I think we have similar fan bases.
Committed, because we've been through it. We've been through it.
At least you guys got one.
We did, and that was the first year I moved to Philly.
Oh,
you want to talk about an epic You're in Philadelphia. I mean, I've come from like the huge city vibe of that, and sports in Philadelphia is like crazy because all the stadiums are so close to each other, and it's like this mecca of all that. But now that I'm in St. Pete, the reason I started this show is because I'm trying to figure out what, like, I know I love this place, but I want perspective of everyone else who's here. Of why is St. Pete so special to live, work, and play? Because it really is.
It is. It's
and
awesome.
Those who are helping shape, the culture of downtown and central and all the things, that pours out into other aspects.
I honestly, when I moved here and opened the Avenue, my goal was to open the Avenue in Tampa, right? So my goal was, when I stopped being a general manager of a bar, I wanted to open up my own place, going back to what we were talking about. And my goal was to do something in Tampa because that's where I grew up.
Right.
I spent most of my life in Tampa. All my friends are in Tampa that I grew up with, talking about my best friend, like my group of buddies, like almost all of them are in Tampa, and like a lot of my friends are in Tampa. I didn't know anybody in St. Pete. That's the crazy thing. And like, I started meeting people because they were coming into my business.
That's amazing.
And it was just, I always touch tables, and like, that's how I was taught in the industry is like, you make sure your guests are good. You make sure your staff's good. And, you literally need to make sure people know that you're here. Right. And so that's really always been my philosophy is like, I want people to know that I care. I want people to know that, we're here for them. And like, I want them to know like I'm in the building and is everything okay? So, I got to meet a lot of people that way. And so, it's been great. I'm still here 11 years later.
Yeah. So how?
And I don't want to leave. Like I want to be in St. Pete.
Yeah.
I love it here.
We talk about this on every episode, so I'm just going to keep saying, like, for some reason, for those of us that live in St. Pete, I just don't enjoy going to the other side of the bridge that much. There's great things over there.
Yeah.
Not to say there's not, but it's like, it's a commitment.
Yeah.
It's not like a quick...
I know I'm going this weekend for Gasparilla because Talkin Rec Tampa, we have a huge event. And it's funny, a couple months ago, I was like, I'm not going this year. And then as we got closer to it, I'm like, I'm going.
This will be my first time.
I'm going.
This will be my first time.
It's cool. Yeah. It's crazy.
I know.
But it's one of those things that you got to experience it. Yeah. And it's fun. It just depends on what you end up doing, right? Like, let me know if you come our way. We have a great party. We actually, for Gasparilla, we open at 9 a.m. and start with we're part of the downtown crawler. So we've got this big pub crawl that we're part of, and we do a breakfast. Nice. And we do mimosas, bottomless, and like,
this is great.
It's cool. So
I'll let the crew know.
Yeah, it's going to be, it's a huge event, but I'm with you. It's funny, when I first moved to St. Pete, I didn't go over to Tampa unless it was like family related, literally like mom's birthday, dad's birthday, my brother's birthday, whatever it may be, family like functions. I was also working nonstop, so I didn't really take a lot of time. But like, there was really nothing in Tampa that for a while that really made me like motivated to go over to Tampa. But now I think both sides of the bridge have really become their own unique like dynamic cities.
Two different vibes,
and there's so much shit to do on both sides of the bridge that I love going to Lightning games. I love trying a lot of the great restaurants and bars in Tampa. Mm-hmm. Obviously, being in the industry, I got to check them out.
Yep.
And I love to enjoy them. Tampa's kind of a little bit of an escape for me too.
Makes sense.
Like St. Pete's like this small bubble.
Yep.
And it sometimes isn't fun for me. So I like to go over to Tampa and have dinner and go to a Lightning game and kind of get away out of like the same like little area of downtown. Downtown's small.
No,
like,
it is.
It's super small.
It is.
I've noticed
that very quickly.
Yeah, especially when you've been here a while.
Yeah,
it's small.
Yeah.
It's downtown's kind of Cheers.
Yeah,
everyone knows you, right? Like you're like shit.
Which kind of makes it special as long as you're in the right way, right?
Yeah,
in
for
terms
sure.
of the vibe, I think that's what the big thing I talk about there is that the vibe of St. Pete and Tampa, they're just so different.
Yeah, they're different.
They're different in their
St.
own
Pete's
special
like
way.
a neighborhood, and Tampa's like a city.
Yes, well, Tampa is proper.
You know what I mean? Like Tampa's like a more of a big city.
Yep.
Right, and St. Pete feels like the neighborhood, and like St. Pete we're definitely more walkable in a lot of like our downtown. And going back to what we were talking about, like downtown's expanded though a lot. Like, it's not just Central Avenue. It's not just Beach Drive. It's not just Central Avenue and the 200, 300 block of Janus and all that. It's, further up, you got, 500 block, 600 block. You've got, the Edge District. You've got Grand Central. And it's become such a diverse downtown. It's neighborhood, there's a lot of expansion in apartments and condos.
I'm glad you brought that up. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
1700 block.
Yeah.
What's happening there? What?
I wish it wasn't.
Yeah. So
I wish it wasn't happening.
For those that don't know, I mean, from where in August, it was announced that where your Dirty Laundry's at, they were going to be building a 7-story, 267 unit apartment building.
Yep.
And there's supposed to be retail space on the bottom. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, that's what I've heard. I've been told that.
Have you been offered retail space?
It was discussed, but I'm not going to wait 3 years to go back into a, white box cookie cutter kind of building.
And you had no idea, obviously, about this prior to opening?
No, I mean, I had a lease, and it was, something that in the lease, if the building were to be purchased, there's these stipulations, right? And I had a first right refusal on the building. Unfortunately, was not able to outbid the developer, and they went forward. And it's, again, I talk about this often with people, and being a young entrepreneur, and 11 years later, and having 7 places and all these different scenarios that have happened in my career. I'm not surprised at anything anymore. I'm really not. This is just another thing that has happened. I've seen a lot of shit in 11 years, and it's everything from, like I lost my dad a week after I opened Park and Rec Tampa. So yeah, man, like that was another scenario that it's like, here you go. It's a challenge. Like, what are you gonna do? You got a brand new business. I just spent a year building it. A lot more money than I planned on investing into the building, because, the longer it takes, the more money it is. And, here I am, with the first real big loss in my life. And I had to do what, you have to still go handle your business.
I self-operate.
And so I threw myself back into what I had to do. And then 3 months later, COVID hit. So, those are some dark days, man. Those are some tough times. And, it's been something that I just try to use as a learning experience, and now this, right? Like now I'm losing one of my buildings, and, we're a year old, and it's been an awesome first year. It really has.
I mean, people talk about it all the time.
Yeah,
they love that spot.
It's bigger than I expected it to be, which is always really cool. Park and Rec as well was something that I never thought would be as big as it is. I never really thought about opening a second location until it was like, oh shit, like
it's needed.
Everyone in Tampa's coming over the bridge for Park and Rec, which was cool, by the way, right?
That is,
like, you're coming to us.
Right.
We're not going to you.
Gotcha.
You're coming to us. So it was cool to have that because, again, I grew up in Tampa, and to have a lot of my friends and people I know, and just people in general in the hospitality world, like, dude, Park and Rec. And I was like, yeah, you're coming to us.
Right.
Like, it's cool.
Yeah,
it's been a great experience to have that, kind of come full circle. But
when does that project start? When are you guys? Is there a time to when you have to shut doors?
I don't have an exact time frame. It's sooner than I was hoping. I will tell you that. We're going to definitely announce something soon.
Got it.
We're going to figure out kind of what our last day will be. It's something that I'm trying to figure out. Yeah. Like, do I find another location? It has to be the right building.
Mm-hmm.
I found that location during the COVID lockdown.
Oh.
And so I had that concept for a different location closer to no vacancy back in the end of summer, early fall of 2019.
Wow.
Previously, right before I opened Park and Rec Tampa and right before I lost my dad, I was looking at a building near no vacancy, and I was going to do I came up with the dirty laundry concept. And it was one of those things that, like, now I've got this concept. What do I want to do with it?
Right,
and that's one of my problems, honestly, creatively, is like, if I create something, it will drive me crazy till I find a home for it.
Yeah.
And I had another opportunity that I have a concept I still haven't done, and I was looking at doing it in Grand Central, literally a little bit after that, when I looked at a building, the deal fell through to do dirty laundry in the Edge District, in the 900 block. That didn't happen. And then I had another opportunity come up in the Grand Central District, and I was looking at that area, and I really believed in Grand Central's growth 3.5 years ago. And I created a concept for this space, and I still have it sitting on the shelf right now, right? Like I want to do it eventually, but again,
timing is everything.
and the space has to be right. I'm not going to put a square in a circle. It just doesn't work.
So tell me about what's. I'm so intrigued. I know we keep coming back to your creative process, but in terms of finding the space, what does that look like for you? Like when you saw the space for Dirty Laundry, you had the concept already. What about the space that's at currently made you say this is a good spot?
So when I found the Dirty Laundry spot, the exterior was everything that I was looking for. It was off the beaten path, right? I wanted Dirty Laundry to be a destination because of the hidden bar aspect of it. I didn't want to be next door to one of my other concepts or somebody else downtown, right? Like I didn't want that coming over. I want you going, we're going to Dirty Laundry. And that's what I wanted to create. So I wanted a very standalone type building. And being in that block, obviously the Berg is a great spot and Lolita's and, it's a cool little block that,
a little quieter
is there, but it's quieter from the bar scene of downtown and even the bar scene, even in like Edge District. So I'm glad that I was able to find that building because it was just sitting there, and a portion of it where I ended up doing the cafe, the space was the leasing office for the apartments that they were building across the street. I'm sure it was something prior to them going in, but that space was just this kind of empty little, leasing office. But when I looked at that and I knew it had the other portion, the back was a parking lot. So I was like, oh, this is awesome. I can build a patio. And like, I love outdoor space. It's just,
We're in Florida.
Yeah. And like everyone loves, like if you're inside a bar, you always want to get some air, right? Like
100%,
especially if it's busy.
Yep.
It's like, it's nice to be able to step out and get some, especially if it's like
music
cooler
is a little
out.
quieter.
Right.
You can
It's
actually
like,
talk.
it's a nice little, just a little bit of a disconnect to escape, but still be able to enjoy what the place is. And so I wanted to build a patio, and I found that, and the space that was in the Edge District that I looked at in 2019, I couldn't do a patio. I was trying to do a rooftop though, which would have been cool. But the city didn't approve it. So that was another reason why I didn't do the deal. But everything happens for a reason. The Dirty Laundry situation, I got a really weird phone call about a month after we opened. It might have been 2 weeks after we opened. And I was asked by a broker, which I get hit up by brokers literally weekly.
I bet.
And they asked me to get a cup of coffee, which I'm always down to go get a cup of coffee in the morning. And the conversation was weird, right? Like they wanted to let me know like this developer was looking at Dirty Laundry and that whole block, and they wanted to know if I would be bought out, and I refused it. And I ended up rejecting the buyout. And so I don't know if I should have accepted it. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's one of those things that like,
it'll all play out.
I hope to relocate it one day. I don't know when. I am actively looking, but I'm not going to force anything. And if Dirty Laundry's not around a lot in 2023, it is what it is. If you see us again in 2024 or whatever.
Well, like to your point, the concept works.
I hope, right?
The concept works.
That's the sad thing about it, right? Like, it's proven. It's a year old, but like, it's been a huge success.
Well, for those that are here, I'm just going to shed some positivity because that's what I do. I'm optimistic.
I love that.
I'm optimistic.
Very good. I like that. Yeah. Sometimes I need a little optimism.
Well, listen, Stephen. I think because of if we're talking Dirty Laundry and the amount of people that I know that go there, and I've been there myself, and the vibe of that it's almost something, when they take something away, people want it that much more. You might be able to come back bigger, stronger, better. And do some really awesome things with it. And people will be waiting and anticipating for that launch to where, it could be really, really big. And I think that I can see the twinkle in your eyes.
I like the way you think. Maybe that's what it is too. And
I almost feel it.
We that was one of the things going into the Dirty Laundry concept for me as well. Is like I wanted, especially going back to like what we were talking about earlier, social media and marketing it's so big now, and I wanted to use. Going back a year and a half ago already now, I wanted to use your influencers, and your followers that I don't know.
Right.
Right. And that's where we're at in this world now.
It is.
Which sometimes can be whatever. But for me, that was one of the things I wanted to. So for Dirty Laundry, we did an invite only event, and the way I envisioned it all going down, and we did it was, and I didn't even tell my family about Dirty Laundry till the day before, the day of us opening.
Wow.
So the invite that I sent out, my family thought, my mom, my brother, my sister-in-law, my aunts, everyone, right? My close friends, they all thought I was inviting them to my company party that I have every year for my staff. And they're like, that's so nice of you to invite us, but like, I don't know half your staff. I'm not coming. I'm like, well, you just missed the opening night of my new business. And it started blowing up that night over social media because we invited you and you and you and you, and you were posting pictures, and your friends are going like, what the F is that?
Where are you at?
Where are you? What is that place? I've never heard of Dirty Laundry.
Right.
Like, and where is it? What is it? And like, that was my, like game plan for it. It was like, we're going to use people to spread the word on social media.
The best way.
It was awesome because I didn't want to go about, and I still don't. That's why I always wait to announce what we're doing closer to us opening, because you lose a lot. Like, some people look at it, and I've done it all different ways, but like I look at it as like, if I announce a place today with you right now, right? Like, I'm opening up, and I don't open for a year. Dude, everyone forgot about it.
You lost.
And how many times do I have to? And don't get me wrong, sure, you could plug this 4 or 5 times in a year, right? Whether it be you or this blogger or that media outlet, whatever. We can talk about shit for a year, which is great.
Yep.
But I like a little bit more.
It's here.
It's here.
Yeah.
Let's go, right?
No, well, especially
it's a little bit more of a real ROI, right? Like, get your ass over here. We're open.
Yep.
You see it. Your friends are here. You're missing out.
Yes.
Right? And that's one of the things, like, even for good fortune, I waited until 2 months before we opened to even announce it. And same thing, like, with Lost and Found. I waited, I think it was like 3 weeks before we opened. And that was another thing. I also love, like, just focusing on the work and avoiding as much outside noise as possible. And, like, it's not hindering the business, really. It's not something that is going to really impact the build out. The only thing that is difficult sometimes is the hiring process when we've done this, because if you don't know about it,
how can you put?
How could you apply for a job, right? So, and that was one of the things. So, what we've done a good job of, and we've learned, right? We've learned this is, especially like with Dirty Laundry being the first one that I really did that way. Dirty Laundry was literally like top secret. Like, when we were having training, I'm like, no phones. I don't want you posting. I don't want you, because everyone's Instagramming and stories and all that shit. And I'm like, put your phone down. You're here to train. You can tell your friends word of mouth, but don't show that wall. Don't take a picture of the bar. Don't show off the cocktails you're making. Like, we really want to just hit everyone with just literally holy shit overnight, right? And that's what we did, and it was really cool. It was a great way of going about it. And hey, man, maybe that's how we do it again. Maybe we do it differently.
Well,
we'll see.
It is cool because it's not. It's like you drop like Lost and Found. You know how I found Lost and Found actually was walking by. We heard the music, and I was like, "Oh, what is that?"
You're like, "Oh shit!
Whoa, come on!" And your guy at the door was like,
"What song was on?"
I can't even remember. No, that was a couple weeks ago. I have a memory of a goldfish. But it drove me in. You could tell like it was.
And you had not heard of the place yet?
Had not heard of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kind of surprised you didn't hear about it yet.
It was a week out. I mean, it was like it was 1 week. I was like
we were brand
new. Yeah, and I could tell right away. I was like, oh, this is sick.
Yeah, we're on like week 6. So so far so good. Got a great team there. Yeah. Our general manager's great. Our bar manager's amazing. They're both doing an awesome job. And
well, and I love
cool. It's cool for me I want to work with people that are passionate about what they do. I want to work with people who are professionals and not somebody who needs, me to sit there and hold their hand. Right. Like, I can't build a team if it's me all the time. I can't do it.
You're too big.
So like having the right people in place it's awesome to see the growth of it. And that was kind of a little bit of why I came up with Hunger Thirst Group. You know, back in 2016 was like, okay, I'm getting ready to open up my third concept. Like, it's I want people to know that this is all under one.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I felt like we needed an identity. And even if it's just me in the owner's seat, it's still a lot of moving parts that are involved in you know, operations management, general managers, bar managers, kitchen managers, chefs, like, you know, marketing, social, like there's a lot of moving parts, and I want it to all fall under that umbrella, but still be known as a local company. You know, I don't want us to ever lose that identity of like, we're so focused on St. Petersburg, is like, I want St. Pete to just be the majority of what we're doing.
Right.
And that's why I only have done one place in Tampa. And, you know, I get asked all the time, like, oh, you should, like, dirty laundry. You know how many times I got hit up in the last year? Like, you need to bring a dirty laundry to Tampa. And I'm like, nope, I won't do it. Because I don't want to do that again in another city.
Right.
I don't want, you know, that was one of the things, like, the process with Talkin Rec is like Talkin Rec St. Pete being this thing that I never created to be as big as it is. You know, like being in the baseball stadium, like, dude, I never thought
That's
about
really
that.
cool.
Yeah, like,
that's really cool.
When the Rays reached out to me, like, and that kind of all happened with, you know, the Avenue at first. They reached out about the Avenue, and in those meetings, it was like, well, have you also thought about your other concepts coming to the stadium? At first, it was about the Avenue's food, and then it was like, well, what about this space? And, you know, it kind of all evolved, and I've expanded in the stadium 3 times.
It's amazing.
Which is crazy, right? Like, okay, it started with this, and it started with it, and then it was food carts, and then now it's a full kitchen. And so it's crazy. And I've even had discussions with other teams locally and in the state of Florida about doing something similar. So, you know, there's opportunities that you don't always take, but you also don't, like, I didn't create it to do that.
Right.
But Tampa was kind of one of those things for me that, like, I felt like I wanted to do something in Tampa because I grew up in Tampa. And since I didn't do the Avenue, I felt like Park and Rec was the concept that fit that area, because that Channelside Water Street area with Amalie, and, you know, I felt like it was such a great area. And we're just now really seeing Water Street, right? Like Edition Hotel. My good friend Jeff Gigante just opened up a new restaurant this past weekend, a French brasserie, Boulan. Nice. He's got Forbici in Hyde Park, and he's doing some other really great things. But, like, it's cool to see that area starting to get, like, more of, like, what I thought it would be 3.5 years ago,
right?
Which is like a neighborhoody kind of city feel, like live, work, play. And so I hope we see more growth out of that, because, you know, we've been there 3.5 years now, and, you know, during COVID, right? Like, we were open 3.5 months before COVID hit. So, like, Park and Rec Tampa, we've had a lot of a roller coaster experience there. So it's there's been highs and lows, and I will say the highs are seeing the Lightning go back to back.
Yeah, that's huge.
And the Bucks hosting and winning the Super Bowl. Those 3 events, being in your own business and seeing a whole city lose their mind, was insane. And also during a global pandemic.
Right?
Like, we're dealing with all this shit.
Right.
And our teams are winning championships. It was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. Super Bowl weekend, I got an Airbnb and stayed over at Park and Rec Tampa all weekend. Right. And I brought an electric scooter and cruised around. It was fun. It was a good time. But yeah, like, I left Super Bowl night, like, not even that long after we won the Super Bowl. And I looked back at Park and Rec Tampa, I don't know, maybe like a half hour after the Bucks won the Super Bowl. And I was just like, holy shit. Like, there's like 1,000 people losing their mind in my business. Yeah. We just won the Super Bowl. We're the home team, first team to ever do that, which the Rams did it last year, so it kind of ruined that. Yeah. But at least we were the first. You were the first. Yeah. And, you know, Tom Brady, and we got a global pandemic going on, and, you know, I had just lost my dad. Like, it was, dude.
That was it
was a crazy effing time.
You remember that moment specifically of being on that scooter.
And I was just like, I'm going to my Airbnb, grabbing my shit, and I'm going back to St. Pete to go home. Because I had 3 days there, and I was just like 3 or 4 days, and I was like, I'm getting the hell out of here. Like, I've had enough. And I knew, like, it was going to get crazy. I mean, the game was on Dale Mabry. Right. Like, the city was going to be, traffic was going to be a shit show.
Well, yeah.
So I was like, I gotta get the hell out of here.
Let me get ahead of this wave.
So I got on it, dude. I was like, later. I remember one of the DJs that was playing Park Rec Tampa. He texted me, was like, did you leave? And I was like, yep. Thanks for a great night, bro.
Irish
like,
goodbye.
I'm like, have a good time. Later. I'm out of here. Yeah. I hit that moment of like, I've had enough.
Right. Yep. Time to check out.
Time to go.
Yep. That's awesome. So what does your day-to-day look like now?
My days are pretty crazy, man. I try to start my days with a workout or end my day with a workout, or a break with a workout. So I've learned, the older I get, that
it's important.
It's really important in all aspects,
Where do you
physically
go?
and
Where do you
mentally. So I work out a couple different spots. I usually lift at Titan Fitness downtown. And then one of my best friends is a pro boxing coach.
Nice.
So I met him at the Avenue, actually.
Oh, cool.
And one of my former bartenders knew him through the fitness world, and because she's a personal trainer, and I ended up meeting him, and we became really good friends a couple years ago, and started boxing. So that's like my favorite outlet.
Yeah, it's a good workout.
Growing up, I played sports, basketball, soccer, tried everything, but as an adult, kind of got away from playing a lot of sports and not wanting to get hurt. And so, but then you hit that moment in life where you're like, I need something besides just whether it be working out or just work. And so I fell in love with boxing, man. I love it. It's my favorite way of working out. And it's such a stress reliever. Like, it's such a great mental release. And it's a great, like, total body workout. I get bored lifting weights. I really do. I get bored with some of that, like, continuous same thing, right? Like Mondays, Wednesdays, back and buys. I get a little bored, so sometimes it's nice to mix up. But I never get bored boxing ever.
You found your niche in that.
Yeah, so it's a great release for me. It's a great outlet. And the nice thing too is, like, I can't be on my phone while boxing.
That's my favorite part about working out.
Dude, my phone is like, I'm sure everyone will joke, like, I'm on my phone 24/7, and so when I box,
you got the gloves on,
right? And I set my phone down, and like I'm away from the phone. It's my hour and a half for myself, and you got gloves on, so you can't check your phone, and it's just a nice like me time. Yeah, and so that's usually how I start or end my day. And then, dude, my days are very jam packed with meetings. I try to be as like consistent as I can. So like Mondays, I usually meet with my CFO for like 2 hours. My operations managers, marketing meetings, social media meetings. Been doing a lot of on-site meetings with my management teams for each place. New year, looking at what we can do to improve. Always looking to grow business. I'm big on, if you're sitting still, you're going to end up losing, right? You're going to lose business, because at the end of the day, if all you're doing is trying to do what you've been doing, a lot of that will start to fall off. And if you're not looking to improve and get some energy and some things into areas that aren't doing well, then you can't expect anything to change, right?
I always say, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah, and for us, I'm big on how do we improve. Always ask that question all the time. How can we improve? And there's so many areas of that, right? Is it in the kitchen? Is it in hiring? Is it in training? Is it in accountability? Is it in systems? There's so many areas that we see, that we can always look to find ways to improve. And communication's huge nowadays. It's like, email doesn't always work for everyone. And so we use a lot of different ways to communicate with our management teams as well as staff. Right. And especially like we're a very event-driven business. So it's like you want them to know about this stuff so that they can spread it to their social media, so that they can tell that guest that might be sitting at their bar. So, how do we do that? I'm big on that. And that's also another area of like developing people, right? Like, I'm big on promoting from within. I'd rather have a go-getter who has been kicking ass for me for a year become our next manager, right? Like, they've earned it. He or she has worked their tail off. And if they're interested in that, we know what we have, right? It's a lot better than the unknown. Right. And, people sometimes look good on paper.
Yeah.
You know,
But
I
you
interviewed a
build
guy the
rapport
other
with-
day. I'm like, it's not it, right? And so
The vibe check.
Yeah, it's one of those things that finding good people is very, very hard, but it's how we improve and how we grow.
Yeah. Where do you see the organization going in the next 3 years?
Well, hopefully we have dirty laundry again.
Okay.
Right? Like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
man, 3 years. That's why I turned down that retail space.
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to wait 3 years.
Yeah.
So I'm active on that. I definitely don't want to see that concept, on the sideline for too long. It's been awesome. And it's a place that people really enjoy. So, I see that being relocated eventually. That's definitely on my plate every day. I'm very active about it right now. And then going back, I mean, there's, like I said to you, there's a couple concepts I haven't done yet that I probably would like to do, hopefully within 3 years, because that to me seems like it's doable. But I also would like to see us continue to improve. That's really what motivates me every day. Is how do we improve always, like, the double-edged sword of guest experience and staff experience. Because I'm a big believer, if your staff is happy, your guests see it. And, like, we all go out to eat and drink, and, like, you go to places and, like, that bartender who's got a great personality and is outgoing, it's probably because he or she loves the place they're at, right? Like, they're having a good time.
And people come back for that.
Right, 100%. And, like, we've all been that guy or girl at the bar by themselves, and who are you engaged with? The bartender.
The only
if
other
that
person I will
bartender
talk to,
gives you shitty service, are you going back? I just had shitty service somewhere recently. Food was great. Bartender was miserable. And that breaks my heart because I love this industry. And I'm just like, damn. Like,
what are you going through?
What,
what's happening? Yeah.
It was more like cold.
Oh.
And so it was just like, okay, no vibe, but whatever.
Right.
But at least the food was great.
Yeah,
I'm not going to call out the restaurant because of their bartender, but the food was great. And I was very pleasantly surprised with everything. And it's great to see because it was a new business in St. Pete. And so, I love supporting local. That's what the city's about.
Yep.
And that's what I think makes us unique. We don't have the big box stores. We don't have the chains. We're not, there's not a Chili's on every corner, right? We don't have any of that, it's awesome. I'm interested to see how long that lasts, though. I will say that.
Yeah, so it brings up a point. What do you think what's happening with all the new development that's going on? Like this, apartment building that's taken over Dirty Laundry. There's the condo buildings going up downtown, 400 Central, the Art House. There's tons of new living spaces that are being established, which is going to create more retail on Central and some spots. But it could, depending on what the price is to get leasing in there, it could be bring in some of these bigger stores. I've been thinking about that. What are your thoughts on that? Do you see that happening, or do you think St. Pete itself is like dedicated to staying, we need local businesses. We don't want to let the big box in here. And I bring this up because I just saw that the melting pot is coming.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is cool. I'm not entirely mad about it, but at the same time, it's like...
They're from this market.
Yeah.
They're a local corporation chain, whatever they are. And I don't know if that's done, like, these people own only like a certain territory.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how it's done either. But when I first saw that, I'm
like,
Melting
Pot, I believe, is a national chain.
Big. There's one everywhere. Yeah.
Right. So, like, the one in Boston or wherever is probably not the same group that's doing one in St. Petersburg. I was shocked when I saw that. I'm interested to see how it does, because that's something that, like, it's not being done everywhere downtown, right? So maybe
I don't think
it'll do well because it's different.
Yeah,
it's definitely like a good little date night spot too.
Yeah.
So it could capture its own, like, audience, but
so the overall growth of downtown. Do you think?
I don't also, like, run out my door to go to that kind of a spot, but teach their own, right? I think there's a need for a lot of things. Like we talked about, there's still plenty of concepts that aren't in our market or places. I mean, you could take 5 different Mexican places or Italian restaurants and they're not all the same, right? And same with us. There's how many bars, right? And that's one of the things I always tell our staffs is, like, anyone can go get a Jack and Coke. Anyone can crack open a High Noon. It's what we bring to the table with that, right? Like, your personality, being, happy about where you're at job-wise, right? Like, enjoying what you're doing. and delivering that guest experience. And like each place is different, not only mine, but the others downtown. And I think like, yeah, a lot of us have the same products, but we're not delivering the same experience per se, right?
Well, that's what really it is. I mean, as you're changing, you're hopping around downtown, it's changing the vibe.
Yeah.
Because you can get the same drink. What's your go-to drink?
So I'm not a really big drinker.
Well, if we have to, we're celebrating something. What are you having?
I probably would just get some sort of a really good, like, I do enjoy like gin cocktails. It's usually like kind of more of a go-to if I go to a good bar. But yeah, I'm not like, people always laugh.
No,
like,
well, it's not. I mean, it makes sense. Like you're in the biz. Yeah.
It's I'm good with a cold beer.
Yeah.
I'm good with a nice glass of like a Cabernet with a good dinner, a good cocktail. I personally like usually if I go to a cocktail bar, I tend to go for more of like gin based cocktails.
Something.
I went through my whiskey phase, years back. Not really a huge whiskey drinker anymore. I like more like light, refreshing, something that's just simple and not like overpowering, not heavy. Yeah. So
just was curious,
I get asked all the time, and it's funny. People will always be like, "I never see you drink," and I'm like, "Man, I'm working."
I'm not.
I get in work mode, and like that's the thing. It's like even like dirty laundry. I probably have had like I don't know 5 drinks there in a year, and lost and found. I think I've had 2.
The fact that you can count is awesome.
Yeah,
like you can remember. Yeah,
it's not like that's not my thing, and like I've always been more focused on like the business and the operational side of what we're doing, not like oh my god,
right?
Well, I can drink for free here. Like,
that's the thing of like bar owners drink their profits away. So
not my thing. I don't want to be the drunk owner at the bar.
Right.
Good fortune. We've got some great cocktails. Definitely enjoying all of the food that we're doing there.
Yeah.
It's definitely my go-to spot to eat, and enjoying like more of like that atmosphere, than like a crazy bar. But it's they each have their own spot for me.
They do,
and I'm more likely to drink somewhere else.
Makes sense. Not in your backyard.
And it's just one of those things too. Like I could have one drink in my hand and someone might be like, "Oh yeah, the owner is always drinking here. Oh, he's drunk." And that's not my thing.
No,
so I'd rather go out to dinner, have a drink somewhere else, and I can actually sit back to and enjoy it because like when I'm at my places, like I want to make sure things are going well, and I also don't want to go from having like a drink to oh shit, I need to take the garbage out because the bar back didn't show up. Whatever, right? Like I don't want to like drink and work. So.
Let's shift gears here a little bit. With the success that you're seeing, you didn't get here alone. So who in your world has influenced you the most in terms of helping you get to where you're at now?
Yeah, my dad, my mom, my brother, my parents, my family. Yeah, that's really for me like the core. I definitely have a small circle. My best friends are still my best friends since I was a little kid. Was texting with them on the way here. Like it's gonna watch football Sunday with them. Like I'm we meet a lot of people, especially like whether you're successful or just like as we get older, and like I still have like my core. Like it's that's my friends. Yeah, those are my real friends. And I think it's one of those things as you get older, it's like it's harder to make friends, and like being in the industry, like most of the people I meet are like wanting to go out, drinking, whatever, and like I don't really have a lot of time for it. Right. So but I've met some great people downtown over the last 11 years. Amazing. Some of my best friends I did meet also as an adult at like the Avenue. Like one of my really good friends I met because he goes to the Avenue to watch football. So like we became good friends through that. So and then my attorney's been somebody who has become not only such a help in business, but one of my best friends. And so, and a mentor, somebody who helps me, think about things, not always the way I might, have looked at it, by being in it. Sometimes you got to step back. And that's one of those things I've learned the older I get and the more experience I get is like, I used to just have that mentality of like, I'll run through a wall and, it gets done. Right. And that work harder, get shit done mentality. But like the older you get, you do realize like you got to kind of see things a little bit different. And it's kind of, I'm big on sports, and I remember Michael Jordan being interviewed and saying, like, as he got older, like, let the game come to you, right? Like, when you're young, like, attack the rim, right? Like, jump over people, dunk on them, be the most aggressive, mentality of, like, I'll dominate you. And then as you get older in life and in business, is like, let the game come to you, see what the defense gives you. Like, it's the same mentality. Like, every situation, you sometimes have to just give it a little bit of arm's length and step back and figure it out versus just running through that wall. So I've learned a lot of that as I get older. My dad was I miss those phone calls, because that's what we would talk about, like, situations and how to handle things, and just a very great listener, but also just having that that sounding board, right? Like, my dad used to be like, you know what you're doing, right? Like, he'd always tell me that, but like, it was great to get it off your chest.
I get that.
And like, to talk about it helps you process it.
That's it.
And so
you just need to word vomit sometimes and have someone.
So
listen.
I have that still with, my dad's gone, but like, I still have my mom, thank God. I still have my brother, of course, and like having them in my corner, and then like I mentioned, my attorney. So and I've got like I mentioned a couple of good friends in the business, and so they're always great to they understand the struggles and the pains, and so the processes that we deal with. So it's great to have that. I think everyone needs mentors and advisors.
That's what I was going to ask you.
It's great to have that.
Do you have someone that in your world that's doing bigger things at a larger scale that you look to, or for advice or anything like that? Yeah,
as I mentioned, my friend Jeff in Tampa, he's somebody, and I've got a couple other friends in the business that are doing things that are, I sit back and go, damn, right. So it's great to see that. I'm also big on research. I love to read about people doing things in
what do you read?
The industry. Book wise, it's weird. So I used to love to read books, and I probably will when I slow down, but I have a hard time reading books now and sitting back and taking that time that goes into it, because I don't have enough of that free time. But I'm big on doing like a lot of research to understand like where I need to get to for like the processes that we're every day, right? Like, those are the things that for me, I might read about a chef in New York who's been in the business 30 years, like
That's
stuff
cool.
like that.
That's
so like,
cool.
I love, so much information is accessible now.
Yeah,
right.
And you can
so
be
like
inundated with
right,
it. Yeah.
and so like it could be just doing Google searches and social media searches and finding that and reading interviews with those people, and so I tend to kind of go that route more than just sitting down and reading a book now. I've got a few books, and man, I have a hard time now really.
Yeah, it's hard to be intentional to carve it out.
Yeah, that's the downside. Is like I obviously like I got Kobe Bryant's book like about a year ago, and I read like half of it.
Right.
Shit. It's like, damn, I need to pick that back up. But I just don't have. When I finally sit down, it's bedtime for me. Right, like I'm ready to go to bed, and that's the thing is like I start most of my days between 7 and 8, and by the time I shut it all down, it's midnight. And so it's like, I don't have time to pick up a book.
Well, they say the fastest way to fall asleep is pick up a book.
I know. I don't even pick up the book.
But I'm saying if you did, you would only make it past 2
I would
sentences.
be on like, And like, how many times I've fallen asleep like trying to pick a movie? Right. I'm like, done. Like, didn't even pick out the movie.
Right.
So I pretty much, my days are long, and I even like last night, I finished my last call and emails, and it was like 11:30 last night, and it was like shower, bed.
I get it.
Right. And it's like, didn't have time to do anything outside of what I already had done for the day.
But you say you do make time to come out to the beaches and escape. How often do you get to do that?
I would like to do it more. I definitely am more of a seasonal person, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm ready to get a tan again.
Right.
You know, let's get winter over and get back out to the beach. At least one weekend a month. You know, that's always kind of like my goal. So I like to get out here, whether it's like Treasure Island or St. Pete Beach, Paso Grill, anywhere along that area is like, I love them all. Sunset Beach, all of that. So, you know, whether it be a holiday weekend, like we do 4th of July with the fam over here and like watch fireworks. And I've got 2 nieces, so it's fun to watch them, you know, enjoy it and kind of created our own little family tradition with that. So it's nice to do that. But I'll go to the beach by myself a lot, whether it's like 1 night, 2 nights. I'll just get out there. Sometimes I'll invite friends, whatever. But
that's your escape.
It's my escape. And you know, ideas come from it. You know, a lot of ideas come from it, not just no vacancy. Like ideas, whether it be event ideas or specials or concepts or even just mental clarity for like the day-to-day operating, right? It's great to escape. And that's one of the things I try to do every night is like I finish my day by myself, whether I'm at the office and everyone left at 5:30. You know, I was at the office last night till 8:45. Then I went home, you know, about another 2 hours or so on phone calls and emails before I go to bed. So like that was for me, I get a lot done without everyone else around.
No, I get that. I need it.
Yeah, it's
my
part
morning
of that process.
It's
the
my
morning's
thing.
great.
Yeah,
and the end of the night. And I've noticed everything in between.
Chaos, man.
It's chaos. I get interrupted. You know, I get hit up by salespeople. I get hit up by, you know, junk emails. You know, I've unsubscribed to so many damn things. I'm like, how did they get my email? Right? I get phone calls that I'm like, I'm not interested in this.
Yeah.
So, but you know, it's one of those things that, you know, there's a lot of people will suck up your time if you let them. And that's another thing as we get more experience and we grow, you know, we learn where our time needs to get allocated because you could spend your day and get a very unproductive day.
But you were busy all day.
Right.
Yeah, we're busy.
You were busy all day, but what the hell did you get done?
Nothing.
That sucks.
Yeah,
I don't want those days.
No.
And that's the thing, like you would go home and be like, what the F?
Yeah.
I just spent my day, like, what got done? So I try to use my time wisely. I try to really be as disciplined as I can, personally and professionally, because our time is valuable and we need to use it on ourselves as well, as much as our businesses. Yep. And so I've learned that. And, you know, a while back, I used to try to like cram as much shit as I could in one day, right? Like, and every day. And I'd have a meeting and it's supposed to be 30 minutes. And the next thing you know, you're in that meeting for 2 hours. Like, shit.
What happened?
Why did I schedule 3 meetings after that?
Right.
And you learn that. Like, don't give yourself such a limited amount of time that 30-minute meeting sucked and was pointless.
Right.
Right? Because you didn't get anything accomplished. It was rushed. Then so were your other meetings. And so I've learned that I need to, you know, it took a while to get to that point, but like, how do I get a lot accomplished by really focusing on it instead of trying to do 10 things in one day? Maybe only do 4 meetings. Who cares?
But they say, you know, we can only do one thing at a time.
Yeah.
We think we can multitask, but you really can't. You do it less efficiently to do
and
one
it's
thing.
Rushed.
Yeah.
It's always rushed that way.
Right.
You're not going to get the quality done if you're just rushing through it all the time. Right. And it's done, you know, we focus on, you know, having those systems in place. And that's something like for myself is like, I don't want my managers to feel like, oh shit, that event's tomorrow and I don't know anything. Like, how would that be successful?
Right.
Right? Like, there has to be time and it has to be thought out and planned.
You do make time for the Children's Dream Fund.
I do.
How did that come into your world?
Children's Dream Fund, great group of people. Another situation where like I meet good people at my places, and I'm really thankful for that. So a lot of the Children's Dream Fund would come into the Avenue to eat lunch or dinner, and ended up becoming friends with them. And you know, it was one of those things like, how can we help? I love what y'all are doing, and so it kind of naturally became one of those things for myself. And like, I've always been very like community driven. I don't have children of my own. I love my nieces to death, but I have a soft spot for kids. I definitely like kids are awesome. They're so appreciative. You know, as adults, we don't appreciate shit like you do when you're a kid,
right.
Whether it's a toy or whatever it may be, you know. And so, you know, the other side of this too is like what their mission is helping kids that have, you know, illnesses and terminal, you know, potential terminal illnesses. So it's one of those things that every day they're so brave and they're facing, you know, having really uphill battle. And I just wanted to do something that could make a difference and be able to, whether it's sponsoring a children's dream, whether they go, like we just sponsored a kid who actually we had him out to throw out first pitch with the Rays. Amazing kid, was playing baseball, you know, got diagnosed with cancer and he's doing great, thank God. But his dream was to go skiing with his family. And so we sponsored that. He went skiing with his family over the holidays, which was awesome. But he loved baseball. He played baseball until he got sick, and he loves baseball. And so I was like, when the Rays asked me to throw out the first pitch, I'm like, hey, let's do this. And so I walked out with him. I threw out a pitch last year.
Nice.
Not bad. Hadn't thrown a baseball in a few years. It was over the plate.
That's all. It was
over the plate.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, I didn't throw like a 50-cent, like really bad ball. So even my friends were like, "Dude, you threw a pretty good ball." I'm like, "Yeah." And baseball is not my sport, so I was glad I can throw a ball. You know, hey, I don't know how fast it was, but it was straight. It was straight.
That's all that matters.
Over the plate.
That's all that matters.
But yeah, we brought him out this year. We had a suite. The Rays gave us a suite, food. His family, a couple of his best friends and teammates.
That's awesome.
It was so cool. And like to be able to do that is awesome. And we wouldn't be able to do that without the community supporting us. So, you know, one hand helps the other. And that's the thing is like, I feel like, you know, been in the city now 11 years and like our growth is because of the great people that support us and work every day. And I felt like it was a win-win to help their cause, and being involved with them is awesome. And, you know, we're making like 2 to 3 dreams a year come true now. And it's great to see. I'd love to be able to do more, and, you know, hopefully we're able to just continue what we're doing. But they're such a great group of people too. Everyone who works at the Dream Fund, amazing group, awesome people. And the, you know, the what they do is so meaningful. Mm-hmm. You know, you're able to take these kids and give them a day, a vacation, you know, whatever it may be, whether it be a one-day trip, you know, whether it be like a shopping spree or meet a famous athlete. Like we had a couple years ago, a kid who got to meet Stephen Curry.
Oh, wow.
I know. I'm like, dude, I want to meet Steph. Yeah. Like, damn. Like, cool. It's so cool. Yeah. But that was his dream, and we were able to make it come true. And it's awesome to be able to do that because, you know, these kids are dealing with real life shit.
They're going through it.
This is, you know, they're not worrying about the stuff that we think is important every day. This is life or death.
You talk about time, and it really puts into perspective that our time can be limited even at a young age. So I love what you're doing with that, and all the great things that you're doing for us here.
We're glad to give back.
In the
it's
community.
Important.
Yeah,
it really is.
It is, and then, you know, what you give out, you get back.
Big believer in that. It's you know, what goes around comes around. Karma's real, man. Yeah. You know, it's definitely real. So, you know, and that's one of those things, like, you know, be kind. You know, like, costs you nothing.
That's it.
Like it's not that hard to, you know, treat people right and do the right thing and have a good time. And, you know, I think sometimes people take that, you know, kindness, not to say as a weakness, but they try to take advantage of it. And that's where you do have to draw the line in the sand. But at the end of the day, you know, we're all here trying to do the same things. Is have a good time and enjoy life. And so it's nice to be able to work with an organization that is actually impacting on a larger scale, you know.
Love that you're doing that. Love that everything you're doing and all your concepts and everything, you know, giving back. You know, before we wrap this up, I like to ask everyone, what's your favorite place to eat in St. Pete? And it can't be one of your own.
I was about to say, good fortune's like really high up there for me right now. It can't be one of my own. So I have a couple spots. So I have a good friend who owns some restaurants downtown, brick and mortar. So Chef Jason, we've been friends since we were kids in Tampa, and it's awesome to see his success. And he just announced like a couple weeks ago he's opening up another concept. Nice. He also has a place out here in Terra Verde, Seaworthy, which is great.
Would love to have more.
Yeah. He's definitely somebody, have him on the show. It'd be great. I love Grazie. Great spot. Chef Tony's an awesome person in the community and an amazing chef, and I love what they do. And my favorite food's Italian food. So, that's kind of like, and I actually live a block away. So
Dangerous.
It's dangerous. Yeah, I know. It's one of those things I'm like, I can't eat there every week. And then out here when I come out to St. Pete Beach, I really like 1200 Chop House.
I haven't been, but I've heard good things.
Dude, you got to go.
Yeah.
Excellent place. I enjoy, trying to think of a couple other spots that I frequent. You took good fortune away from me.
Well, that's all right. I mean, you said it. We know.
Those are some good ones. Yeah. And then, growing up in Tampa, I've got some favorites over there still. A lot of like places that I grew up going. So like traditional stuff that like family functions, like holidays and celebrations. So like there's a couple spots in Tampa that will always like be important to me. And like New Year's Eve, I took my mom to dinner every year, and like
that's awesome.
Like stuff like that. Yeah. So like there's some spots, and like I mentioned, my buddy Jeff just opened a new place this weekend, and it's a French restaurant. Amazing.
Really good?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I think there's plenty of places that
there's plenty, and that's why I like to end with that question because everyone's got different answers.
There's so many good spots, and I think that we'll see that continue because we've seen the growth of St. Pete. Yeah. And I think Tampa's had a reemergence as well, which is I think nice to see. I know when I first moved here, it was like you said, it was like, do I really want to go over to Tampa? And there wasn't a lot of new stuff in Tampa at that time. Mm-hmm. So I think Tampa kind of saw like the St. Pete growth and almost like, okay, we need to get some new life back into Tampa.
Blood, new blood.
So it's cool to see both sides of the bridge grow. And St. Pete, obviously, we've got all the way out to the beach and everything in between, and that's like for me, I don't know if I'll ever end up doing something out at the beach. It's always been a thought, and that could be something like you mentioned, like
in the next.
Where do I see in the next 3 years? Yeah. Maybe we do a beach bar.
Is there anything floating in your mind in terms of concepts? For
the beach?
Yeah. Is there anything on the shelf?
Nothing on the shelf, but like a beach bar would be cool to do. Right? Like, and I think in the next 3 years, that's another thing. Like for me, I don't want to do anything I've already done. Mm-hmm. I like mentioned, like, I don't want to bring Dirty Laundry to Tampa, right? Like I don't want to bring Lost and Found to Tampa. I really want to, if I'm going to do something, it would be in St. Pete, whether it be St. Pete downtown or maybe St. Pete Beach. But I think I would like to do a couple of the concepts that I have, on the shelf that I envision being in, like the downtown kind of core, right? Like downtown to Grand Central, somewhere in there. But I also would love to do something that like I don't have, like a rooftop or a beach bar, or
we can always use more
something that is not already part of like what we've done, right? Like I want the building to be unique, and that's another thing with like Dirty Laundry, bro. Like I didn't want to go into a white box, no patio. Like I don't. I'm not going to change my concept.
Right.
And that was one of the reasons why like I pick out a lot of is the building. Like I like unique
location
buildings.
Makes it, right?
Yeah, and like the history of the buildings, like they're cool. Like the architecture's awesome, and like there's uniqueness to, what they look like exterior and interior. And you're not going to get that with a lot of this development.
Right.
A lot of this stuff's going to look like a box.
Right. The character won't be there because it won't have those.
That's not something I enjoy.
Right.
So I want to keep finding unique buildings and opportunities that really speak to me. That's part of that creative process.
Well, dude, it's been amazing to have you on.
Thanks,
I appreciate
man.
you sharing everything. I think we could have you on again as things evolve down the road. I think Talkin St. Pete's going to keep going, and maybe we could be an exclusive to announce something new.
Maybe in the future.
In the future, never know, right? What's 3 years from now look like? I'm not sure for you or the show. But thanks again. Appreciate everything you do for us here in the community. Keep kicking ass. And for all those watching, if you made it this far, thank you. Share with your friends. Definitely check out the Hunger Thirst group and all the amazing spots. And we'll see you here on the next one.
Cool. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.